A feature film is making its new screening rounds with a strong connection to the borderland. My name is Carlos de la Torre, sitting in for Charles Horak, and you're listening to On Film. Humberto Castro is an actor, director, and producer here in El Paso, Las Cruces region, offering a variety of stories that he's been a part of, including some he's starred in and directed himself here in El Paso. Humberto, thank you for joining me in the studio today.
Hey, Carlos, thank you for having me.
Well, it's great to talk to you because, naturally people come into the film scene here in town and you start hearing names, and you're one of the names that you hear. And we almost have another personal connection through your brother as well, which, we've worked on a few films, and then thankfully I've worked with you on a film as well. So it's been great to have that connection with you, and excited for all of the projects that you're kind of getting ready to do. So we want to let the world know about that. But I do want to start talking to you about your start in acting and performing and filmmaking, because you do that as well. So tell me a little bit about that background, doing that here in town.
So I've always loved filmmaking ever since I was a kid. But as far as pursuing acting as a profession, I think it had to be right after college. I had just gotten my bachelor's in psychology and my minor in criminal justice. And my wife, Lorraine, she was still my girlfriend at the time, she told me about this open casting call that they were holding for a feature film that they were shooting here in El Paso. So I was like, wow, I didn't even know they did that here, I was like, I thought they just filmed in the big markets like LA and New York. So I went to the casting call, and it was in a local studio. And they gave me my sides. I had no training. I didn't know what I was doing. There was about 20 people there. Once I got in there, the main actor was there, and I remember I got real nervous. So needless to say, I blew the audition. So the studio director, he got to talking to me, and then he invited me to attend one of the acting courses the following week. So I went, and then I completely fell in love with it. So then I had a decision to make. Do something with my degrees that I've worked so hard to get, or pursue this thing that was going to fulfill me. It's been 15 years and I haven't done anything with my degrees.
The life of an artist, right?
You know what? I don't regret any minute of it.
Yeah, no, I can't.
Second of it.
I can't imagine you do. You would. No artist does. I don't think. I would hope so. But you mentioned you had a kind of a bit of a connection to it growing up all throughout. You would kind of be interested in that growing up. Was that ever something you thought to pursue before you went to school? You were like, oh,
Well, I mean, I just enjoyed it, and I did my little short films and stuff like that when I was a kid. But I thought I had to move to LA to be able to pursue it. You know what I mean? And I didn't know. I just wasn't ready to make the jump. You know what I mean? So, but the studio was a great place to network, because I got to start making short films and meeting the right people. And from there, I got to make my first feature film, El Sueño, which was very loosely based on my own personal experiences as an undocumented immigrant. And right now it's streaming on Tubi and Amazon Prime Video. So yeah, I'm very proud of that.
Yeah. Let's backtrack a little bit here, because before you make your first feature film, you get you catch the acting bug, you start seeking out roles like that. What's that experience for you like, connecting, networking with other people to be either on an acting capacity or behind the camera? What was that experience like for you?
So as far as the acting bug, my main focus was filmmaking, and I did make my own short films, but that was basically just to have footage for my demo reel and all that. And there is a lot of great talent here in El Paso. And I learned from every single production that I'm in, because I ask questions, and that's the only way you grow as an actor, right? So, yeah, I mean, slowly but surely, I've had a passion for filmmaking, but it's been geared towards just acting. You know what I mean? Slowly. And that's just my main focus right now. Acting and screenwriting. I still enjoy writing a lot.
Sure.
Yeah.
In the amount of time I've known you, and like you mentioned, 15 years doing it, you must have been in quite a bit of productions. Are there any standouts that you made here in town or in Las Cruces that you say, wow, I really learned a lot from this experience?
So right after the COVID-19 pandemic, when productions were starting to they were starting to film again. They were starting to get back up again. I worked on yours, corner on the corner of Polk and Byron.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that was such a good experience working with you. And then right after that, I was fortunate enough to get cast in my first union film that was distributed by Paramount Pictures. It's called Snag. So the funny story behind that was that once I got the email to self-tape for it, there was a couple of questions since the role was for a tattoo artist. And the questions were, do you have any real tattoos? Do you have any tattooing experience? And are you local to New Mexico, since it was shooting up in Bonanza Creek Ranch in between Albuquerque and Santa Fe?
Sure.
So my answer to that was no, no, and no. So I thought I had no chance of getting that. So I submitted the self-tape, and then about 3 weeks later, they got back to me, and they offered me the role.
Wow.
And that was such a cool experience because, I was up there for 5 days. I had one scene in that film, but since they were having problems with the weather, since it was snowing a lot, I kept on getting pushed back. And but they took the time to, cover me up in tats. And I was sitting in the makeup chair for like an hour every single day. And they gave me a mohawk. And they actually took the time to show me how to hold a tattoo gun and tattoo somebody. So, that was such a fun experience.
Wow, I can imagine. And thank you for the kind words on the film that we worked on together. It was I can concur. It was definitely a great experience. And you're right at the tail end of the pandemic, and where we still had to have these regulations and make sure we're careful. And
we're still safe.
No, definitely. That's such a great story, such a great experience, because it comes to show you the latitude for even bigger productions, how much attention to detail they'll have to take for something like that. So that's amazing. So speaking of feature films, you mentioned El Sueño, and I remember when we were kind of starting out, getting our company together, that we started hearing a ton of buzz about it. It's on the radio, some Bassett screenings, stuff like that. Tell me a little bit about that experience, because as we'll talk a little more about here shortly, making a feature film is no easy feat.
No, it's not.
So tell me a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit about El Sueño.
So going back to the studio, at the time we were getting a new acting instructor, and I was working on a summer production for the studio, and the director knew that I wrote, so he's like, well, why don't you write about something personal to you? And so my mom actually gave me the idea. She's like, well, why don't you write about immigration? So I did, and then it was technically supposed to be a 15-minute short film, and the acting instructor, I just presented the script to him for ideas, how to improve it. So he read it, he fell in love with it, and then 4 years later, we got El Sueño to the big screen, and it's more than I could have ever have hoped for. You know what I mean? It got a really good reception. We sold out 3 theaters on opening night, that premiere. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow.
And a lot of local talent. I mean, all the talent was from, pretty much all the talent was from El Paso. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on that, because that definitely is a big deal. I know what it takes to make a feature film. It's
you know the
easy.
struggle, right?
Absolutely. And speaking of feature films, we definitely want to make sure we talk about your newest film, one of your newest films that is going to be having some screenings here in a couple months, which is A Long Road to Tao, where it's based on a true story, based on a book. I want to talk to you about your experience of working on this film. How was that?
So I worked on A Long Road to Tao right after Snag. It was that same year. And again, I had to self-tape, and they sent me 6 scenes, and they told me to pick 4 of those scenes. And supposedly, I'm the only one that did the 3-page monologue out of all the actors that auditioned for that part.
Wow.
And that's what ended up getting me the role. And man, I couldn't be more grateful. It was actually the producer's wife, Julie Allen, who ended up picking me.
Oh, wow.
So shout out to Julie. Thank you, Julie.
And important to mention Michael Allen, co-screenwriter and producer, and then Alex Craig, who directed the picture and also wrote the film. How was that's not your typical quote unquote kind of El Paso story, because it's not even necessarily based here, but to be able to cast and seek out people from everywhere to help tell a story. Tell us a little bit about that, because you stay in El Paso long enough, you'll start to realize what kind of stories people want to make. But how was that experience for you, just on the subject matter and what this film meant?
Well, this film had actors from everywhere. It had actors from California, New Mexico, and then I was the only El Paso actor, so representing El Paso. Everybody has their own style, and you see how passionate everybody is. Not only the actors, I mean the crew as well. The crew was consisting of New Mexico students, film students. And man, they were all so professional, all excited to be there. Their film professor was actually the cinematographer for the film, Sherwin Lau. Yeah, and he has a very organic style of shooting. And yeah, it was just such a beautiful film to work on.
If there's one thing you can let audiences know to hopefully persuade them to come screen the film, what would that be?
Well, this is a film that's based on, or it's an adaptation of Michael A. Allen's book, Tao of Surfing. And it's at the core of it, it's a story about love and acceptance. When we had the screening last year in Las Cruces, at the Las Cruces International Film Festival, we had such a good reception. We ended up getting the audience award, and everybody was coming up to us, and some people were crying, telling us about their experiences. So yeah, if you just like films that make you feel something, right, that touch the heart, this is the film for you.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
You can catch the award-winning film A Long Road to Tao screening March 28th, Friday, March 28th through Thursday, April 3rd at the Fountain Theater in Mesilla, New Mexico, with a special book and poster signing on the 28th, where you can meet the author of the book and the director of the film and producer of the film as well, which I'm sure you'll be there, Humberto.
Yes, yeah, for sure, I'll be there.
So you can definitely catch that. A past archive of the show can be found on ktep.org, including today's episode. I want to thank Humberto for being on the show today. Thank you to KTEP staff for engineering and editing today's show, and thank you for listening to On Film.